Hi everyone. Welcome to our final edition of our Leadership Lessons Q&A event series for 2025 at least. My name's Alex and I'm the Growth Marketing Lead at OfferZen and I'm going to be hosting today's session. Before we dive into the content, we do have some rules of engagement. The chat is open, so please take a moment to say hi, introduce yourselves, kick off a little bit of banter. If you do have any questions, please drop them in the questions tab on the bottom right section. We'll make sure to cover them at the end during the Q&A section. And yes, we are recording the session. So if you missed any nuggets of wisdom or want to rewatch the session, you will get the replay link post-event. Awesome. I'm going to give it a minute just to check that our chat is working. I do see a few people typing. There we go. Okay, I see Anthony. Hello, Craig. Okay, awesome. Good to see that that is working. Let's move on. So we know that tech leadership is high stakes, often invisible, and can be sometimes lonely. From our engineering leadership reports, about 1 in 3 tech leaders say that they feel isolated, and many feel more pressure to prove their team's value than to actually lead. Our AMAs celebrate leadership as a craft. So this is your hour to hear how others navigate these challenges, reflect on career-defining moments, and also ask your burning questions live. Today, we're joined by Gregor Ojstersek, creator of the Engineering Leadership Newsletter and former CTO. Gregor helps engineers become confident, effective leaders, turning real-world lessons into practical guidance for thriving teams. I think let's get Gregor onto stage. Let's give him a second. Hi, Gregor. How's it going?
Hey, it's going really great. Thanks for having me.
No, we're excited to have you, and I'm excited to dive into our themes. Maybe before we do that, do you want to give a brief introduction to the audience?
Yeah, sure. So, my name is Gregor. I come from Slovenia. And in my career, I grew from engineer to all the way to CTO. I started as an engineer. I'm also a self-taught engineer, so I didn't go to an university. So if you're feeling that you cannot grow in your career because you didn't go to university, I'm an example of that. Um, I then became a senior software engineer, became a team lead after 6 to 7, 8 months. I became an engineering manager, and then head of engineering, VP of engineering, and then CTO. Most people know me from writing an engineering leadership newsletter where I share 2 weekly articles. I also teach a course. It's called Senior Engineer to Lead, Grow, and Thrive in a Role. And also, my overall goal is to help as many people as possible to become great engineering leaders.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think what we'll do is we'll also share your newsletter and that course in the post-event email if the audience wants to check it out. But I'm excited to dive into more of your story. But before we dive into that, just want to give the audience some context. So we're going to have 4 themes for the session today. So firstly, the journey to leader, the mess-ups and the milestones learned along the way, building and leading for the future, and then lastly, AI's impact on tech leadership. Plus then plenty of time for audience questions. And just a reminder to our audience, we have some OfferZen swag up for grabs as usual if you engage or ask questions throughout. So make sure to ask your burning questions. But I'm keen to dive into the meaty bit now. Theme number 1, the journey to leader. So Gregor, as you've mentioned, you've lived that full arc from hands-on engineer to CTO and really helping others now make that same leap. Let's start at that beginning. What shaped your transition into leadership and how do you think about it today?
Yeah, it's a really good question to start off, and also really great to see some of the Slovenian flags in the chat. But yeah, the thing about me growing from senior software engineer to my first leadership role, that was a team lead position. I didn't really know that, if that's what I actually wanted, right? But the problem was that when I was a senior software engineer, I felt a little bit stuck because I didn't know which would be the next path for me, what would be the next position, what would be the next step, like becoming an architect or becoming a staff engineer or becoming a team lead. I couldn't make that kind of like a decision myself. And also my manager asked me, okay, hey, Gregor, where do you see yourself in, let's say, 1 year or 2 years, 3 years? And I wasn't very confident about, growing in different specific area. I was like, okay, maybe I would like to be an architect. Maybe I would like to be a manager and so on. And that's shown to be quite problematic, because if I would be more, how do I say, more confident about, okay, I want to become a team lead,
Mm.
then potentially there would be an opportunity for me earlier, and I wouldn't felt that stuck. But then luckily what happened was that the company went through a bit of a restructuring, and there was like new teams created, and we needed the company needed a new team lead for the role. And I was luckily offered the position, and that was more or less a luck for me than actually just a goal, and actually just something I'm working towards. But it was one of the best decisions that I said yes to it, and without it I probably wouldn't be here today.
Oh, that's awesome. I think there's always this kind of weird expectation that, if you move into this engineering manager role or a leadership role, you can't take that step back. But you definitely can. You can play around in it and you're like, actually,
Yeah.
this is not for me. I want to go more into an architectural space or whatever that other options are. Like, it's okay to kind of lean in, play a little bit and move out. And it was great that you got that opportunity yourself.
Yeah, especially in current times, especially with the impact of AI on engineering and engineering teams, the roles of let's say leadership roles are getting just closer and closer together. Like for example, staff engineers, architects, and engineering managers. Those are kind of like becoming less clear what are the differences between them,
Yeah.
because smaller the teams, and like many of the companies are trying to flatten the orgs with having less less middle management, let's call it like that. And when there's such things happening, is more is expected from existing people. So especially in smaller to mid-sized companies, the expectations and the different responsibilities that you can do as a manager or staff engineer or architect can be all related in this one role.
It's super interesting, and I'm keen to get to that in our AI theme. But maybe looking at that moving from engineer to CTO, what was that toughest mindset shift for you that you had to navigate? And how did you figure out what worked for you?
Yeah, it was a bumpy ride growing from a senior software engineer then to team lead, and I made a lot of mistakes along the way. And the thing is that, as also many people and many engineers believe that to be the case, is what makes you great individual contributor will not make you a great team lead or a leader, right? That is the number one important thing. You need to focus less on your individual contribution and more on making people around you better. That's also an expectation. You are not judged anymore but by your contribution, by your how many PRs are you open and stuff like that, but you are judged by the success of the projects and the success of your team. So that was the number one important thing. And the three mistakes that I can mention are the time management aspect, because I wanted to be the best manager and also finish the most tasks in
Mhm.
order to show the team that I deserve to be a team lead. But that's not the way to go. I was working on weekends, and I was trying to still be the best engineer on the team, but that's not how it works. You need to be really good at saying no to things, and picking out what is important for the team, what moves the team forward, and so on. And then also, as a first time team lead, I wanted to make so many changes, even without even that weren't affecting just my team alone, but they were like across different teams, across also different departments. And I learned quickly that you can control what you can't control, right? But I was very passionate about, okay, I want to make the process better across how we are doing this, how we are doing that. And that wasn't my responsibility, right? It was my responsibility to lead a team and make sure that everything is great there. But yeah, being passionate and excited, you're trying to make things better across all different things. But it backfires, because I was too pushy about it,
Mm.
and so on. And I would say the third thing that is probably the most important one is delegating and trusting your team. You need to let go. You need to make sure that you're not a bottleneck, because if you're a manager and you're still taking on the most important tasks and the most crucial things, you're going to be burnout and you're going to have other responsibilities. But you need to find people that you can trust, and you can delegate things that, and you just know that they will handle it. And if you don't have that currently in the team, you need to coach and mentor to achieve that. You cannot do everything alone.
Mm. you yourself have coached and mentored quite a few senior engineers into leadership roles. What's one piece of advice you'd give to those engineers who are ready to take that leap and step into a leadership space?
Yeah, it's a good question because you you know the title doesn't define you in being a leader, right?
Mm.
You should already start leading even without a title, and start taking projects and start taking things that are actually a part of the next step that you want to get to. You want to show already the behaviors of the next step of the next position that you want to grow. That may be a staff engineer or a team lead or something else, or architect. Look for ways to provide impact in those areas, and so on. And also, the important thing to mention here is that managers try to de-risk the decision as much as possible. And if you already showed the behaviors on the next level, that is going to be less risky for a lot of managers. It's really important to understand that um, managers are judged by who they promote and how well they do on the role. So if you know that, what do you need to do in order to de-risk this, and to make sure that transition is going to be as reliable decision for the manager as possible. Do those things, building good relationships with your manager, working together with your manager on this, being helpful wherever you can be, and so on. Building your credibility, because you know building up your skills and also have a good track record of successfully finishing projects. That is what managers are looking for when they are going to promote an engineer to a lead role. What is their track record, and how confident are they in promoting them. And if it's a low risk, then you're going to get promoted sooner than later.
I think that's an important thing you mentioned also about talking to your manager about it, because I think sometimes people expect it to be a promotion or something that's kind of given to them, but often you have to kind of carve that path for yourself and say to your manager, okay, I want to get here in a year's time. How do I get there? What do we need to
Yeah.
do? What are those milestones that we can work towards, and we can keep this conversation open?
Exactly. If you don't tell your manager is not a mind reader, right? Maybe
Yeah.
a lot of good, especially really good managers, they might read your mind, but you can't expect this from most managers. So a lot of people may think like, if I do good work, then good things are going to happen. If I just think that I may grow to a staff role. But
Mm.
then the problem is that managers have so many other things on their plate, and they see only like 40% of things that you're doing on a daily basis. So you want to tell them exactly all the great things that you're doing, all of the good projects that you're working on, and all of the important things, and also make sure that you also share your goals and aspirations. And then you want to get a certain objectives, like, hey, this is what I need to do, this is what I need to do in order to be a candidate for the next step.
Mm. I love that. I'm keen to move on to the mess ups and milestones, because you've already given some tips and some experiences there. But we know that leadership growth rarely happens without that little bit of friction. So I'm keen to talk about the lessons that you maybe learned that harder way, the missteps, mindset shifts, those kind of things. Was there ever a mindset, habit, or framework that stopped serving you when you moved from an IC role to a leader? And how did that change as your teams grew?
Yeah, I'll answer this in a minute, but I just want to point out what Wesley in the chat mentioned is, yeah, you can't expect just to grow from engineer to team lead all at once. It's not likely going to happen. You're going to need to show some sort of leadership, and leading as a tech lead, leading projects. That's very very crucial to showcase that you have the capabilities to be a great leader, and so on. But yeah, going back to habit and the mindset shift that you need to make as a leader, is your individual contribution is no longer as much important. And what I see a lot of times happening is that, especially with engineers who have their identity defined with a certain technology or a certain framework, like, for example, I'm a C# engineer, or I'm a JavaScript engineer, or I'm a Python engineer. Fast API is what I'm really good at. And
Mm.
the problem with that is that you are known to be that person inside your organization, inside maybe in a group of your colleagues, in a group of your friends, they know you from a really good, or maybe like a Rust expert or whatever, uh, but the thing is that when you grow to your first lead role, you need to change your identity shift. You need to shift your identity and being less of that person who is, known to be the most technical in that specific technology, but be the person who is going to find that specific expertise and uplift your team and become known as someone who is making others around you better, right? And that is really hard. Going through identity shift is the hardest thing that you need to face as engineer growing to a lead role. But it's really important to do that. And the more, the more teams you manage, the most direct and indirect reports you have, the more important that is to find the right people, uplift your people inside the teams, empower them, trusting your team, and building people around you. That is crucial.
Do you have any tips on managing that identity shift that people could, do tomorrow and already start changing that?
Yeah, it's crucial, especially if you want to grow to a lead role. Start taking ownership of let's say projects, not just being a go-to person for just that specific technology, but look for ways to become an evangelist of that technology. Share knowledge, help others to become good at it. Don't try to be hoard knowledge. That is the worst behavior and is an anti-pattern that is going to be for a lead role. You want to share as much as things as everything that you're learning, you want to be sharing. That is very important. That is a good start, because a lot of engineers I see is they want to protect their knowledge, they want to protect what they know, and they aren't so very keen on sharing it as well. But me as a leader, I see that, and that's not a senior behavior for me. The more you share what you know, the more you make others around you better, the more I'm going to be keen on promoting you to become let's say a team lead or a tech lead and so on.
We have a value at OfferZen called default to open, and it's just the basic way that you show up. It's like taking people along that journey, showing them how you did something. That's like the base way in which you show up. So I completely resonate with that. Can you share a tough decision or project that didn't go as planned? What happened, and how did you and your team respond?
Yeah, there were many mistakes, many many unsuccessful things in my career happening, and yeah, you need to just there's not always going to be just rainbows and good things happening inside the organization. And bad things happening to the business, to the organization. That's what defines you as a leader, right? You
Mm.
need to be a leader not only good times but also in bad times. For example, when I was that wasn't so long ago, maybe like a year and a half ago, we launched our project. I was a part of a company called Zorion. We launched our project after building it for let's call it a year, a bit more. And yeah, the launch wasn't as much good as we planned to be. But the thing is that once things like that happens, you want to keep the morale as high as possible. You want to make sure that this is a good experiment, this is something that we are going to be continuously improving. Let's focus on finding out what we can do to make sure we make things as good as possible, and control the what we can control, right?
Mm.
And you want to be, as a lead, you can just you need to be firm and also confident in yourself and your team as well, because if you're not, then people around you are going to still is going to how to say spot that, and things will naturally go from there. Because if you're feeling uncertain as a leader, then also your team is going to be feel less certain as well, and also the leadership team is going to lose confidence and so on. But even if bad things happen, those are all part of the role. Embrace it. Try to focus on the good things of the certain launch or whatever initiative that you've been doing, and make sure that you still feel composed and have a plan.
Yeah. think that's great advice. Many engineers struggle with imposter syndrome. I think it's always a bit of a sticky topic when moving into leadership. From your experience in your mentorship, what advice or frameworks do you share to help people navigate those doubts?
Yeah, with imposter syndrome is I mean everyone has it in our industry. Me personally, I have it all the time as well,
Yeah.
especially when I'm learning something new, or I'm trying out something new, or I'm trying out the different concept, or whatever, and so on. I'm gonna feel imposter syndrome, right? So no matter if how many years of experience you have in the industry, how many what is your title, what is your experience level, and so on, you're gonna feel imposter syndrome to a certain extent. So my advice is to embrace it as much as possible. That is a sign of growth. If you
Mm.
feel like you're an imposter, that means that you're growing in some way. So always think of it like that. I feel it all the time, everyone else feels it. There's no way of avoiding it. Also, important thing I want to mention here is that um, nobody is really ready for the next step. Nobody is going to be 100% prepared for the next step. You can prepare for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Probably you're gonna make the same mistakes than you would if I would say 2, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and so on. So find something that is challenging to you. Find a goal, and just ruthlessly go against it. And a lot of times you're gonna look back like 3 months ago, 4 months ago, when you overcame that specific thing. You're gonna think that, why actually did I even felt this way? It wasn't really that bad.
Yeah. I think that really resonates with the audience because I saw a lot of thumbs up in agreement there. Every leader hits a wall at some point. What's one of the hardest moments you faced in your career, and what did it teach you about leadership?
Yeah, especially as a middle manager, you're dealt with so many different situations where they're quite tricky to handle, right? You need to manage upwards, that is the leadership team and the stakeholders, and then you need to also manage your team correctly. And you're in the middle path, right? Between those things. And I was in a lot of sticky situations as an engineering manager. Especially I will point an example here where I got promoted to become an engineering manager, and probably about 2, 3 months in the role, my manager, who was a VP of engineering, decided to move on to another company. And then what happened was, there was a new VP of engineering hired, and I had a really good relationship with the previous manager. We really got along well, and the style of management was really kind of like what was connecting both of us.
Mm.
But then when a new manager came to the company, he was used to a certain way of working. He was used to making certain decisions in a certain way, and I was used, doing it in a certain way, right? And the problem with that was that, yeah, we didn't really get along that well because of that. And we sometimes clashed with the way there was like my expectations and the team's expectations and so on. But what you want to still do is, even though you don't may not get along so well with your manager, you want to make sure that you still focus on building as good working relationship as possible. That is going to be key. That's one of the biggest principle of managing up correctly, that is very important to grow toward a lead role. No matter what kind of manager you have, you don't control that they are on the role, and how they react, and also how they act on a daily basis. You want to make sure that you find a good compromise, and also try to do your best in making this working relationship work, because that may be the difference between you having a decent time on the role, or you having a really bad time if you're trying to actively work towards against your manager.
Mm. I think there's some good advice in there for those who maybe don't get along with their manager. There was a question earlier, also linking back to, leading from a non-leadership role. As someone then maybe who's still an IC that doesn't have a great relationship with their manager per se, but wants to start leading a little bit more, going out of their IC role, how do you lead without a title, without stepping on other people's toes?
Yeah, I saw this question. It's a good question, and the thing is that especially it's gonna be really hard if you don't have a good relationship with your manager, because then your opportunities are going to be less there, less available. You know, that is one of the most important things to focus on if you want to grow to the next step, is build a good relationship with your manager. You know, as I mentioned before, you're not going to get. It's going to sound risky to the manager to promote you if they don't have a good relationship with you to and give you opportunities, because you know they're viewed on the success of the team and the success of their people. So that's my first advice. The second advice is find impactful improvements yourself, and then once you do, you also should volunteer to own this leading this impactful improvements. That is the number one way that I recommend to people to start leading. Don't wait to be assigned projects, but you are the one who is finding those projects. And then important thing is not only suggest them and then leave them to the manager or maybe someone else to assign who is going to lead it, but no, you are the one who is then saying, okay, this would be the plan to solve it, this is how I would do it, and this is how much this would be my estimation on the amount of time we need to spend on it and stuff like that. Take complete ownership of it, and that's a clear sign to me that person, you know, is going to get that project, and if that's going to be successful, then going to get another potentially more challenging project, and you know that's how you show already that you can start working on the next level.
Love that. Okay, let's move on to theme number 3, because I see all the audience questions in that little red bubble piling up. So we want to make sure we get to those. Building and leading for the future. So you've led through rapid growth and now coach others on doing the same. The next kind of theme is about what great leadership looks like, building resilient teams, navigating change, and really setting up for future leaders for success. How do you help your teams navigate uncertainty or rapid change? Do you have any stories from your experience as a CTO or through the mentoring that you've been doing?
Yeah, you know, as we talked about earlier, you know, as a middle manager, and especially in any case scenario, uncertainty is always going to be the case, and any kind of rapid changes is always going to be the case, especially as a leader. You can't control what the leadership is going to decide or what the company is going to be focused on or doing restructuring. You can control only what you can control. And why I'm saying that is important is a lot of times the first instinct may be, okay, I disagree with this, or I don't like this change, or my team is not going to like it. But the thing is, as a especially as a first time manager, middle manager, you need to embrace those changes and do the best as you can within those constraints that you're working with. You're not going to change. Maybe you can consult and you can suggest a certain ways, but you can't expect that the whole business is going to change based because you don't agree with that specific thing. So embracing is the way to go as much as possible, and don't try to, especially what I see in first time managers, first time team leads or tech leads or engineering managers, is that if they don't agree, or their team doesn't agree with that decision, they try to either sound negative about that decision to the business. But the problem with this is that you're not seen then as a person who is leading that specific. But you're not going to also to change the direction because of it. What you need to do is embrace it, and then you want to share the goals, the business goals and the business challenges, why we are doing this as much as possible to your team, and make sure that your team understands that as much as possible. That is crucial. It's going to be a lot better if you do it like that, and your team is also going to understand it, because your team also, and everyone knows that organizations change, business changes. You probably seen, I've seen so many transformations across different organizations and so on, and the best thing you want to do is embrace them and focus on what you can control.
Love that. What is your leadership North Star, the guiding principle that shapes the decisions you make for your teams?
Yeah, there's many different things that I strive as a leader, and it all starts with me being a good example and also setting a clear expectations. I always start with setting good expectations, even on when I'm hiring for a new role. Already start with that on the interviews, and then I want to make sure that whenever a new person coming into the team, they know the expectations very clearly. So what I want to do with all of the teams that I'm working with, we define a clear set of expectations and that is normally on the first page of the technology, either Confluence page or Notion page, whatever. Anyone can see this anytime. And some of the most important things are that, helping others is more important than your individual contribution. Success of the team is always comes first. Second is your individual contribution. Helping others, is key. Also, that you can learn anything from anyone, no matter the title, years of experience of their time in the company, or even in the time of their career, and so on. Those are some of the most important things that I make sure that everyone understands. It's not just about what you do on a daily basis and how many things are you finishing, or how many story points are you finishing, or how many tasks are you finishing. It's all about how successful the team is going to be, and I want everyone who is joining my teams to ensure that and embrace that kind of mindset.
I think it's great to have those values, but I think it's even better to set those expectations even at the hiring phase, so people know what they're coming into, the type of environment. When I got a new manager, we sat down and we created a relationship agreement document, and it's really
Yeah.
great because there's no gray area. Like, you know where you stand, you know how you communicate, you know the values that you need to live up to, and everyone can just put their head down and get the work done. So it creates no room to question and spend time doing that, which I love. When you're bringing your team along on a vision or strategy, what approaches have you found the most effective when you're trying to gain trust and create alignment in the team?
Yeah, it's a good question, and the reason is that, especially when I was a senior software engineer, I saw many times people try to, coming to the company, especially as a VP or a CTO, coming to the new company, they completely change the direction and the vision of the whole engineering team, or what we are focusing on. And that has shown to be quite a loss of confidence from people, because a lot of those decisions, are made prematurely,
Yeah.
are not done in the right way, and that can cause a lot more issues than actually good things. And the thing is, you're not, you may think that if you're coming to the company as a new leader, that you need to change everything. If you don't, that you're not going to be seen as a successful leader inside a company. So that's something I always keep in mind, is whenever I get to a new project, or I talk to a certain people, I always want to understand the problem first and the context, and really, make sure that the decision, especially with bigger decisions, that the decisions is going to be correct. Well, once you have that, you want to make sure that you build a plan, and you get a buy-in from the leadership. As much as possible, you want to share all the things that are important. Why are we doing this, and so on. Once you have the buy-in from the leadership team, the important thing then is to share with the team as well. Why are we doing this? What are the importance of the what business value, what business benefits are we going to get from this? What are the organizational benefits we're going to get from this? And then you want to make sure that you involve the team as much as possible. Don't just try to do top-down decisions with such things, because again, people are going to be less prone towards embracing it if you're just going to tell everyone what they need to do. But you want to bring your people along the way of this change, and assign ownership to different individuals, leading particular parts, and so on. You should be the one who is more or less just facilitating and navigating the change, but looking to make things better across their engineering organization, across the different departments, and so on. And as soon as people are going to see the benefits, are going to see that it's actually better for them, it's going to be they're going to be a lot more excited and a lot more prone towards also leading that effort.
I love that. So, from coaching future leaders, what is one skill or mindset you think every aspiring tech leader should focus on mastering, and why?
Yeah, well, one of the biggest things, especially for first time leaders, is that they want to still do things that they're good at, right? And you want to focus on getting better at things that you're not so good at. And I mentioned a bit of a mistakes before. That was like time management, delegating,
Mm.
and facilitating meetings, stuff like that. You want to get better at overall communication as much as possible, especially in this current AI world. Communication is going to be very, very important. Overall people skills, human-led skills are going to be more and more crucial. Obviously, writing code is one way of solving problems, but there are a lot more other ways to solve a certain problem, and you can solve so many things just with clear communication, good understanding of the problem, building good relationships, as we mentioned before, and making sure that everyone is aligned on certain things. So yeah, don't just get better at certain technologies, but also communication is going to solve many problems. I learned a lot about that while doing freelance projects, because I couldn't make that there wouldn't be a success in a specific project, especially working with non-technical people, if I wouldn't be planning things correctly, communicating with that client correctly, and so on. That's very important.
Awesome. I'm keen to move on to our last theme, AI's impact on tech leadership. So we know that AI is rewriting what it means to lead engineering teams, not just technically, but also culturally. Given how you think about systems, people, and scaling impact, I'm curious how you see leadership evolving in this new era. So what
Yeah. Sorry.
no?
Go ahead.
I was going to go into a little bit more of a detailed question there, but how is AI changing the way engineering teams work, and what surprised you the most about its impact on leadership?
Yeah, I recently had a presentation about this topic on a conference, and one of the two biggest things that I see happening, especially if AI impacting engineering leadership, is that a lot of engineers and also engineering teams feel negatively. Let's call it 51% of engineering leaders feel negative sentiment over AI. And then also, engineering teams feel less motivated at this time than they were 12 months ago. So when I first saw this data, by the way, this data is from the Lead Devs report, where they interviewed more than 600 engineers and engineering leaders. And when I first saw this data, I started to think like, hey, what's really happening here?
Mm,
And what I found out is that a lot of company leaders are feeling that they might be missing out on certain AI tools and certain AI technologies, because there are so many sensationalistic takes happening across the industry from non-public individuals, and how AI is transforming everything, how AI is making everything better. But actually, they're mostly trying to sell their products, right? But what's happening is company leaders feel that they might be missing out on certain technologies,
mm,
and they're pushing down the initiatives for adopting AI features, adopting AI tools, trying to do full scale transformations with AI, and that comes problematic for engineers and engineering leaders to actually manage those expectations. That's why a lot of engineering teams feel less motivated these days, and also engineering leaders feel a little bit more negative towards AI at this time. And also, roles are getting closer together, as we mentioned before, because tools are getting better and better for development. As I mentioned before, staff engineer, engineering manager, architect role, that is going to just get more and more closer together. As time goes on, we've seen, like as I mentioned before, companies doing flattening their orgs, like for example Amazon, like increase the ratio I think about 15% between manager individual direct reports and their managers, and so on. So yeah, that's very important to keep in mind, especially also a product engineer role is going to get more important as time goes on, especially in startups and mid-sized companies. It's already expected by a lot of engineers to own the full cycle, not only how to build it, but also what to build, and why to build it, and also when to build it. We can see example of this with Lovable, one of the fastest startups in Europe. They are having their engineers also being kind of like a product managers as well.
sure. I want to go back to your previous or your first answer around AI being introduced more and more into teams, different products, different tools. How do you balance that innovation with team well-being? Do you have any advice for how managers can manage it for their teams, but also
Yeah.
teams can respond?
Yeah, it's always important to look for what's the best, what is our business goal, what is our business challenge, and don't just try to adopt a new shiny tool because it's everyone's using that or everyone is telling how great it is. That is the number one important thing. That's also my advice to every manager inside a company. Also, great culture is the biggest productivity hack than any kind of AI tools or any kind of shiny new things that you can develop, that you can use inside your teams and so on. That is going to be a lot more bigger productivity boost than just, as I mentioned before, a new tool. And also, with AI is going to just improve the existing processes and existing things that you're already doing, not improve, but it's going to just enhance what you're already doing. So if you have a bad process and you don't have a good way of building software at the moment, there's a lot of legacy code, there's a lot of tech that there's things are moving slow because of so many different things happening, flaky tests, stuff like that, processes being too big. If you're just going to include AI into that, you're just going to make things worse. You want to make sure that you make the process to be as good as possible, and then include improvements and using different tools.
Do you maybe have any lessons that you can share in how you've adopted AI, either through the mentorship you've done or in your own teams?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I definitely recommend everyone to use any kind of AI coding tools, especially like you want to make sure as a team lead or as a manager that your team has everything that they need. For example, me personally, I like to use Cursor for any kind of coding. I'm sticking that with quite some time. And also, I use Perplexity for any kind of researching I'm doing, for any kind of things, any kind of problems I'm solving. And then, of course, you want to get some sort of like an agreement. Either, you don't just want to give like three, four, five different AI tools to everyone, but let's pick one specific thing that works for us, and so on, and use that. A lot of, let's say, bigger companies, enterprise companies, may have problems with restrictions, so you want to make sure that the compliance side is well handled with it, and so on. But yeah, highly recommend, especially for engineering teams, use AI coding tools, but don't just rely too much on them. You are going to be the one who is still accountable for what you're building, right? If you open a PR, if you open a pull request, don't just open it with some AI generated code that you don't even check, because that's a bad sign for me. You are still accountable for that specific code that you want to merge.
Would you say that's one thing you believe people are getting wrong about AI in tech teams, or do you have other thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. I've seen a lot of cases, especially coming from more junior engineers, is they just use a certain AI generated code and they just open a PR. They don't even check that it's working correctly, and so on. And that doesn't show me that you're not a good engineer, but also you're not a good person to work with if you're just putting effort and if you're just putting work on others to trying to find and spot your problems and spot your mistakes that you're doing inside a code base. So yeah, use the tools to help you be successful, but don't rely on them, and try to just do your bare minimum. You use them to enhance and make, still deliver high quality work. And I see a lot of thumbs up in there. I think a lot of people can resonate with this. But it's crucial at current times. Still, your credibility is going to be built by time and the consistency of your actions. And if you are going to have good specific decisions in a certain project and so on, and then you're going to completely shift into just doing bad decisions with putting the extra work on everyone else, your credibility is going to get worse. And yeah, that's always going to be on you.
Mm.
The tool should be there to help you, but accountability is on your side.
Mm. Looking ahead, what's one mindset or approach you think tech leaders should adopt to lead effectively in an AI-driven world?
Yeah, the thing about any kind of mindset shift is, again, we talked a bit about this before, is you can't expect AI to be the magical tool that is going to solve everything for you. You use it to help you and to enhance your existing workflow, to make it easier for you to automate certain things, especially, and also very important. I mentioned a bit before about company leaders fearing that they fear of missing out, right? You want to be really good and confident when you are managing those expectations, because that is one of the biggest challenges that I'm hearing across the industry is, can you confidently manage the expectations from CEOs or leadership team? Because what I see is, let's call it like CEOs or other leadership team, they try to do some sort of like a vibe coding of a
Mm.
homepage of a company's website, and then they're telling engineers how easy it is to actually develop it, because you can just write a prompt and it's going to output a certain workable, let's call it workable, um, project for you. But the problem comes where you need to manage those expectations and be firm.
Mm.
What I recommend the most is, you don't wait to be looped in on AI strategy, but you are the one who is actually running the AI strategy. That's also what has been mentioned by Migdal Jaffer. He's a product lead at OpenAI. He mentioned that engineers needs to get a lot closer on what actually we should be focusing on, what should be our AI initiatives, and so on. Because the reason for this is that engineers understand the whole part, and if you don't understand how things should be built with AI, it can be a difference between building something in 3 days or 300 days. So you can make a lot more better decisions than people that are, they don't know exactly what it takes to build that specific thing, and so on. So that's my really important thing, especially for directors, VPs of engineering, CTOs. Take ownership of the AI strategy. Don't wait to be put in the room and be said like, okay, this is what we're focusing on, this is, you need to just implement it. No, you should be the one who is making initiatives, and this is how we should do it.
I think that's great advice. Awesome. So that's the end of our pre-prepared questions. I'm keen to dive into the audience questions, and maybe starting and keeping on the trend of AI. We have a question. With the advances in AI, is there still a place for junior engineers? Recent junior hires tend to use AI to do their coding rather than using AI to learn. As they are inexperienced, this leads to poor and buggy code. How do I manage this to promote AI augmentation rather than AI replacement?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And from a recent report from Signal Fire, there was about 25% of decrease in junior engineering roles, especially in big tech. And yeah, the thing about engineering fundamentals are very important, and especially when tools are getting better, people are going to be more prone to kind of like bypass the engineering fundamentals, and because you already get a certain answer from the, because the tools are better, right? But the thing is, that is going to be one of the most important things moving forward, is how good are you going to be understanding engineering fundamentals and principles. That is going to be a difference between people having more opportunities or less opportunities, or people having good time in their industry and getting different opportunities, getting different positions. If you're just relying on AI, that's not going to be the way to go. Build things, focus on building projects. One of the biggest things that especially companies are looking is experience.
Mm.
And if you're a junior engineer, finishing your college, you don't have any experience, and that takes us to the catch 22 statement, which is, how do you actually get it experience if you don't get hired to a role because you don't have experience, right? But the trick here is that you need to be working on projects, you need to be doing things on your own. You need to showcase that you can build things, build side projects, do freelance projects, build a product, and so on. At the same time, also focus on good engineering fundamentals. Don't just look for AI to give you a solution, but you need to really understand it, and so on. Go a level deeper. That is what I like to say. People that are going to go a level deeper are going to have much better time in our industry.
Nice. Okay. Dirk asks, how do you give a team a voice when the team lead isn't fully stepping up and senior engineers are filling the gaps but management doesn't notice? What's the best way for those engineers to make their contributions visible without appearing like they're trying to take someone else's role?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and the number one instinctive thing would be to try to either showcase to skip level manager or upper management how great of the work you're doing. But the problem with that comes that if you're trying to be too pushy on how well everyone in the team, or maybe how well you are doing, that may come across a bit, how do I say, more obviously you need to be some level of self promoting yourself, but not like to a way that is going to be not in a good way, or you're trying to bash existing people. You don't want to bash existing people in order to showcase how great you are doing. You should be doing as good work as possible, build good relationships with people, not just with your direct manager, but also with, let's call it, leadership team, or other people inside the company, so they see how great things are you doing. Also look for initiatives, like, for example, presenting on on learning sessions, presenting, sharing knowledge via learning lunches. Try to volunteer for things where there's bigger visibility on the impact. That's going to be the key. But don't try to bash existing people. That's not a sign of leadership. That's not a sign of a good leader. Focus on the things that you can showcase, and where you can find that people can see how great of the work you're doing.
From William, as CTO, how do you balance your love for low-level coding with other CTO responsibilities? Is it
Yeah.
possible to still be involved in the code as a CTO?
Definitely. And what I like to do is I like to build proof of concepts. And I love to code. I love to be solving problems. That's also the reason why I started with programming as a self-taught engineer, because I really enjoyed building stuff, especially visual stuff. That's something that really inspired me to move forward and motivate to learn more and more. And the thing is, you want to build proof of concept, also own particular projects that are not so critical facing, especially to the users, to our customers. You want to build stuff that are going to enhance and help your existing team, like, for example, any kind of internal tools, any kind of other things, any kind of project that are not going to be as critical, and so on. Also, I would recommend to also review PRs, check certain PRs as well. Try to provide genuine, helpful things, ask questions, check out the technical specifications, any kind of architecture decisions, the documentations, be involved with that, and also try to help and a little bit to taking on some smaller tasks on a certain cadence. But you should not be taking those critical, very important, really hard tasks, because what's going to happen? You're going to have other responsibilities, and you're going to become a bottleneck if you don't really take care of that specific thing. So you want to make sure the teams and the people who you are going to take care of those things.
Awesome. We did have some pre-event audience questions that I also just want to pull in. Are you using AI in a leadership capacity, like in one-on-ones, or to check burnout amongst the developers?
Yeah, I mentioned a bit before, Cursor is what I use for any kind of coding that I'm doing. I find it to be really good, and so on. Obviously, there's so many other tools, AI tools, that I could use, but I intentionally stick with it because I don't want to just change, and on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and so on. Perplexity is what I use a lot for researching. If I'm trying to find and learn a new concept, or a new tool or a new technology, I'll use Perplexity to get me really good information about different resources, and I'll be checking those resources. After that, any kind of I don't record my one-to-ones with any kind of transcriber tool. I don't feel that is the best way to go, because a lot of times people may feel less we will feel reluctant if there are any kind of third-party tools, or they feel that. And I believe one-to-ones are here for me and the person I'm talking to, and it's more for them and less for me. So I want to make sure that I write everything down. I don't use AI tools for that, any kind of AI one-on-ones meetings. I have my own Notion template that I'm using for 5 years now, and it's working really well for me. So I put all my notes there. I put all my feedback there. Actionable items for certain things, and so on. But yeah, obviously any kind of tools. For example, if you're using Teams or using any kind of other things to manage the conversations, a good tool is going to be to give a summary of all the threads, because some threads can be really really big, and that's going to be really great for you to just get a quick summary of what the thread is all about. Any kind of email tooling, I'm using that a lot for giving me a summary for the full emails of what's actually being discussed, but actually being an action item for a certain email, and so on. And also use ChatGPT a lot to some sort of like to get me feedback on certain decisions, to get me feedback on certain approaches or things that I'm trying to do, and so on. But yeah, that's mostly it for my engineering leadership newsletter. I don't use AI to writing it. I write it myself. And I don't think that is the best way to go, especially if you're writing any kind of things that are user for people to get as much insights as possible. You want to make sure that it's going to be a good experience for people reading it. They can get as much insights in a short amount of time possible.
Awesome. I think we'll end with one more pre-event question, and we can tackle a few afterwards if there's still left. Do you have any book recommendations or resource recommendations for the audience?
Yeah, definitely. I'll be sharing one of the most influential books for me for the way I'm leading is Empowered by Marty Kagan. It's a more product book, but that's ironic. But it really shifts the way I look at building teams and the way I'm looking at how we should what kind of initiatives we should do as leaders. And then also the second book is also more product related, and that is inspired by Marty Kagan, which is tells you how to build good products, what things to focus on. And especially when building products, the building part is the fun part, but the hardest part is to sell it and to actually get the users. That's what you need to understand as an engineer. If you're trying to sell any kind of products, you will see, especially if you're trying to build a product alone as an engineer, you will see how hard that is to get users and to do marketing and to build products that users are actually going to love using. Especially where attention is getting really really more harder and harder to get these days.
Yeah.
So you're gonna learn a lot if you're trying to do that. And then my personal favorite leadership book is The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. I read it probably 3, 4, 5 times potentially. But yeah, some of the key lessons are there to make sure that everyone is different inside your team. You want to get based on characteristics and motivations of your team. You want to find the best positions for your specific person inside your team to be successful on the role. Everyone contributes to a certain way in their own way. Everyone can be good in a certain thing and may not be so good in some other way. You as a leader, you want to find a position that is going to be the best fit for that person.
And resource-wise, we can definitely punt the engineering and leadership newsletter as well.
Thank you.
Awesome. So that's a wrap for today's Q&A and also our last one for 2025. Gregor has reminded us that leadership is less about knowing everything and more about growing through experience, embracing things, sharing what you learn, and helping others do the same. Audience, the recording will be available soon if you want any more or want to recap the advice and the stories. We will be picking up more AMAs next year, so please keep an eye on your inbox for the next invite. Gregor, a huge thank you again for sharing your lessons and all the actionable insights for the audience. And a congrats to Wesley Lowe for winning some OfferZen swag. You will have some swag on its way to you shortly. And yeah, enjoy the rest of the year, everyone, and we'll see you at our next event in 2026. Bye for now.